After your bachelor's degree, you commenced work with Anglo American. How did you get the job? Where did you work? And what were some of the highlights?
When I commenced my degree, there were 120 students in Geology 1, and by the time we'd graduated at the end of year 3, there were approximately 40 graduates. The timing could not have been worse. It was the end of the nickel boom. There were no jobs for geologists. So anyway, what I did was once again went door knocking, and I went round to every mining company basically in Sydney and Brisbane. And finally, in Anglo American's office, they said to me that they couldn't give me a job as a geologist, but they were looking for a field assistant to go and work in Papua New Guinea. Well, I think they'd barely finished the sentence, and I said, I'll take it. So off I went to...
You'd never been there before, presumably?
No, I hadn't, and I really didn't fully appreciate what I was in for. So anyway, I wanted a ticket on the bus. I said, right, I'll take it. So off I went to Papua New Guinea. The breaks at that time were 10 weeks on and 2 weeks off. That didn't bother me at all. And so I was assigned to a porphyry copper project on Manus Island. And this was a very large high sulfidation lithocap. So here I am looking at the geologists out in the field, and my job was to actually work with an IP crew to make sure the IP lines were straight. So I spent 7 months with a tape and compass hacking my way through the jungle with this IP crew. And then finally things started to turn a bit, and a position became available as a geologist. So it was a natural transition to go from a field assistant to a geologist on this project. However, I had no porphyry experience, and here I am sitting on a drilling rig on a very complex high sulfidation lithocap. I was armed with David Lowland Gilbert's model. I also had the wonderful 2 volumes of Spence Titley's books, all of which were practically irrelevant for what I was doing. So I felt completely lost and wasn't very comfortable with what I was doing. In 1972, Bill Lacey, who was a very famous and very capable porphyry geologist from the US, had moved to Australia. And so the Australian Mineral Foundation had convinced him to run a workshop on Bougainville Island. So I was able to attend the workshop. I think it was 4 days from memory, and it had a very strong field component looking at rocks. And what Bill produced was an outstanding manual of practical techniques for assessing porphyry copper deposits. So probably in those 4 days I'd learnt more about porphyry copper deposits than I had in the previous 2 years. And so this impressed me greatly. So back I went to my project, and some things started to make a little bit of sense, and I felt more comfortable. Not long after that, Dick Silito published his Tops and Bottoms of Porphyry Coppers, and having read that, I felt a lot more comfortable because some of the things I was seeing started to make sense. So that was definitely a huge help for my understanding of what I was supposed to be doing. Not long after that, a strange query came through from my head office in Melbourne, where a consortium of companies composed of Taiwan Metal and Mining and Mitsubishi were working on a project in Java that was a copper deposit. So Anglo said, oh, we've got someone who's an expert on copper, me with all of 2 years experience. So I was sent over there to look at it, and in fact it was a vein type deposit, nothing to do with a porphyry at all. It was in central Java at a place called Sukabumi. But anyway, I spent a few days there, and I made 2 very valuable connections. One was a Mr. Chen, and he was in charge of Taiwan Metal and Mining, who had the Chinquashi mine in Taiwan. And the other one was a Japanese geophysicist called Asahi Hattori. And so we became friends and communicated. And then later in life, these 2 gentlemen were to re-emerge again.